How much does a mealworm farmer make? So, a couple things. See the previous video in this playlist around what I'm going to do here. Anytime I hit a tangent, I'm just going to call out tangent, and that way that'll be my notations for trying to piece this together. But today's topic is research and development, very loosely research and development, and how that impacts my salary. So one of the things I've struggled with, I've been raising mealworms now for 7.5 years, and running the business since January of 2017. So I started raising them before then it turned into a business in January of 2017, and has been growing since then. And one of the things that I've struggled with is finding solutions for raising mealworms in the specific way I want to do that. And that means that I have to test these things out on my own. So what I mean by that is I want to be able to fix, implement, and stand up other farms using the skill set that I have and the things I have available. So things like artificial intelligence, I don't want to integrate that into the farm, because then I have to understand all of that in order to figure out the nuances of how that's going to work. So things like artificial intelligence, software, metalworking is not a strong point. Those are things that I would have to externalize. And I understand that I can't rely on myself for everything, but I don't want to rely on stuff like that, robotics, pneumatics, things like that, that I am not capable of fixing, dealing with, or really weaving into the process completely. And so what that means is I'm stuck with things like woodworking, very low tech automation, and I can't find solutions to that specific to mealworms and raising mealworms out on the interwebs. And so I'm testing all that myself. And so what that means is I will purchase things, and we're not talking millions of dollars. This isn't a huge operation, right? So the corporations that have, research and development teams and research and development budgets, etc. I don't have that. It's me, and it's you guys, and help from you guys. And so what I do is I will buy things, and I will test them out and learn from them. But if they don't work, I can't in good conscience return those, because a lot of times I have to change them, mess with them, and adapt them to my uses, which means I can't return them. But even when I could, it doesn't feel right to have played with that, messed with it, and then take it back. So I don't do that. And as a result, that means I have a lot of failures. I will try things, they will fail. I'll try the next thing, it'll fail. I'll try the next thing, it'll fail. And so my current building, half of it is for the insects, half of it is storage, research spaces, place for me to build, things like that. And that front area is just a graveyard of failed projects. There's prescription pill bottles in there when I was building superworm pupation stations. There are fans for blowing in particular areas. There's just all sorts of stuff. And so I have to pay for all that. And instead of that money going to me to pay a salary, it's going to that R&D, very loose R&D, in order for me to achieve the things I want to achieve. And so that directly impacts the income that I make. I could not do that. I could not play with things or test things, but I'm trying to, my goal is to automate that insect room and maximize production without removing the human component. So I don't want robots, I don't want machines doing all the work. That's not the scale that I am aiming for. That's not the purpose of what I'm doing. I have personally found a lot of joy and fulfillment from sweating my butt off in that room and being physically active. I'm not going to be able to do that forever. Everybody gets older. Hopefully I will live to be very, very old. But even the simple things like when I do beetle swap and I'm shaking the tray and I'm hitting the tray to get the beetles out, I'm going to get arthritis at some point, or my hands will ache to the point where it's not functional. And so I need to find other solutions for these things. And in order to do that, I have to tinker with different ideas. And I can't find this information on the internet. You know, like if I were to go try to search for how to spray water on mealworms to optimize growth and not have mold, go find that. You can find a lot of different applications for spraying, right? Like agriculture, hydroponics, greenhouses, grow rooms, things like that. Those places will have different ideas, but how to then integrate that into the system that I have, using the trays that I have, using the processes and the timings and the requirements that I have, that doesn't exist out there publicly. So like you've seen some recent videos from me of the water spraying testing I'm doing. I had to buy a pump, I had to buy some fittings, I had to buy some sprayers, some tubing. All of that adds up. Like, we're not talking thousands of dollars for that one project. That one project's probably, just to test that, it's going to cost me like $300 or $400. But that's $300 or $400 out of my pocket from a salary perspective. Employees get paid first. I'll talk about employees. That's a tangent. I'll talk about employees and my perspective on that in my small business adventure here so far. But I also have the luxury of being able to not pay myself. So I have a lot of very lucky opportunities. I don't have student debt. That's a big thing. I worked at a job where I was able to make more money than my lifestyle demanded, and so I invested that, put that money into savings, paid down the mortgage. We have health insurance through my wife. So that's another big thing. No health issues so far, no giant medical bills. I have had a lot of luck that have allowed me to run things this way. And one of the things that I want to do is to test those things out, because I have that opportunity. I could sit back and not do that, but I have that opportunity, so I want to take advantage of that and then share all of that, because I could die tomorrow. So from an R&D perspective, like I'm not a true scientist. I don't enjoy the scientific method and taking detailed notes and whatnot. I have to get practical and apply it and do it. But I also need that in order to build the processes, because what I think is going to work, when I get into the physics of it or I get into the process of it, I will suddenly realize that that's not going to work. And a lot of times that means that I have tested an item, a physical product, something, I've paid for it, it doesn't work, and now it's just there. I do sort of feel like a hoarder because I'm keeping all of this stuff, but every now and then I'll need something and I'll have it. But again, I also, there's, like, from a resale perspective, I've adjusted, I've messed with it. I took a shop vac and cut the bottom off of it to try to use that to move frass more efficiently. And that didn't work out. I fried the motor. I'm pretty sure I fried the motor. But I can't return that and I can't sell that. And so that's just, a failed experiment, but it got me further along in my process creation in order to get that particular frass scenario moved forward. So that's my take on how R&D impacts my salary as a mealworm farmer in the future. Like, once the system is built in the room that I have and under the requirements that I'm operating under, once that's in place, my initial thought and expectation is that expenditure on R&D will decrease dramatically. I think there's still ways to always try to do things differently, or better, quote unquote better, and it's just a matter of, once I get that room filled to max capacity with trays, with a system in place that allows a sole individual to manage it and run it, then that's where my success level or success goal gets hit. And at that point, it's less expenditures on R&D and buying things and tinkering, which would mean more funding for payments to employee salary and my salary. So please let me know if you have questions. Throw them in the comments. Nothing is off limits. If something gets a little too personal, I'll just respond and say that's digging way in too deep than what I'm willing to share. But any questions, please let me know, and we'll continue this series with more topics. Employees is probably the next one on the list that I'll talk through as a way of how that impacts my personal salary as the business owner and primary person in the farm. So